Hello, this is S.K. Williams, and today I would like to discuss something of some importance. It is very topical. White nationalism. But I'm not going to talk about white nationalism itself. I'm not going to talk about the ideology and beliefs of white nationalists so much as I'm going to talk about the image that is portrayed of them in the media, and more importantly, the types of people who are often accused of being white nationalist who really don't seem to be. For example, candidate Trump, who is running for president, is often accused of racism, but the evidence of the racism that Trump has is very scant. And I'm not going to say as an absolute fact that Donald Trump isn't racist or has no racist beliefs, but most of the evidence that Trump has for racism is, well, his father held some racist beliefs. And he doesn't like illegal immigration, which somehow translates to not liking brown people in some people's minds. But that's sort of the point that I'm making. The left doesn't bother trying to understand what white nationalists believe. As a result, they often characterize them as essentially cartoon villains from a Saturday morning cartoon. They just hate other races, and they are bad, and they are goose-stepping Nazis, in the movie sense. Given that in the movies, Nazis are just genetically evil because they are evil, and have as a defining trait their racism, which is racism for the sake of racism. In the real world, the Nazi belief system was much more complex, and I'm not saying that as an endorsement of it, only that people's perception of Nazism is not entirely accurate to what a Nazi really was. But even if it was, the left seems to be very dedicated to thinking that people on the right are racist, or that racism itself is an inherently right-wing belief system, that, while maybe not all right-wingers are racist, they are all way closer to racism, since racism is a right-wing belief. They may even sometimes admit that a left-winger can be racist, but the left-winger is racist because they aren't left-wing on all their political positions. Their racism is an element of that left-winger which is actually right-wing, because racism is a right-wing belief. At least to the left. In truth, racism is not a left or right-wing issue, and people on either side can be racist, not because if you're on the left and you're racist, you're abandoning left-wing beliefs in that one instance, that in everything else you're left-wing, but in this one thing you're right-wing, you're racist. But rather because race has nothing to do with whether you're right or left wing. But what's interesting about this is, because they have convinced themselves that racism is a right-wing concept, well, it's rather like the fact that black people can't be racist. If black people hate white people, it's not racist, whereas if a white person hates black people, it is. And I've also seen people being accused of racism, and have been accused of racism myself, for holding beliefs that have nothing to do with race at all. A good point of that is that someone may advocate pro-life beliefs. They do not believe in abortion. Somehow this makes them racist, because being opposed to abortion makes you right-wing. It means that the reason you want to deny abortion rights to women is because you think women are property of men and want to control them, and naturally that makes you a male chauvinist. You think women are inferior to men, and if you think women are inferior to men and wish to control them, well, of course you're racist. This isn't really logical, but it's package deal thinking, where we think if men oppose abortion, it must be to control women because they hate them or think of them as inferior, and if they hate or think of women as inferior, well, they must also be racist. It's nonsense, really. And I myself have been called racist for things that are of a similar ilk. For example, I tell people I'm a monarchist. Well, that makes me a racist. I tell people that I believe in traditional family values. That makes me a racist. I tell people that I don't necessarily see a benefit to same-sex marriage. That makes me a racist. I tell people that I believe that religious beliefs should be celebrated rather than seen as some sort of danger. Well, that somehow makes me racist as well. In fact, because I'm a Christian, it means that I want Christianity to dominate society. I want a theocracy like Iran, only run by Christianity and the Christian Taliban. I want a Christian form of Sharia law, and it means I hate anyone who's not a Christian, especially Muslims. And since I hate Muslims, I'm a racist. This is, of course, all very trite nonsense that goes to stereotypical thinking. I actually don't hate Muslims and don't have a problem with them. I just think that religious belief has more to offer and shouldn't be treated as some private hobby. My beliefs on it are more nuanced than that. But it doesn't mean I want to force everyone into the same religion. But that's sort of the issue. People don't seem to really want to understand things on their own. And it's one of those things that I've noticed happens quite frequently in political discussions, and something I would like to discuss in greater detail later on. But for now, I just thought I would make notice of it. At any rate, I will sign off. Thank you, God bless, and goodbye.